We're going to start with revolution. How do I know that the Earth is revolving around the sun? Well, if I'm looking at the Earth revolving around the sun, that's due to a couple things. I'm going to have seasons. If I have seasons, my Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees. With that one, imagine my hand is the sun. The part that's facing the sun, I'm tilted toward the north. The North Pole is tilted towards the sun. It's going to get more daylight or a longer amount of daylight. The longer the amount of daylight, the more radiation it can absorb, the more heat is going to be produced. As I revolve around, and here's my sun again, note that the north hemisphere is tilted away from the sun, and the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun. So the southern hemisphere is going to get more daylight, therefore warmer temperatures. It is because of this revolution that we get seasons. So the thing that you need to remember is that the Earth revolves counterclockwise. Here's the Earth, here's the sun. All right, over time, with the different seasons, we're going to revolve this direction. All right, so it's going counterclockwise. Let's start with our first season. Spring, also known as the vernal equinox. Dates, either March 20th or 21st. Now, this year it was the 19th, but this year we also had an extra day on February 29th. That's leap year, leap day. The sun is the zenith, so the sun is directly above the equator. The amount of daylight is approximately 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. It's an equinox, all right? Equator equal day to darkness. So anytime you see equinox, think equator as the zenith, equal daylight to darkness. Next, I'm looking at summer solstice. June 21st. The sun is the zenith for the tropic of Cancer, 23.5 or 23.5 degrees north latitude. The amount of daylight is going to be greatest for the northern hemisphere. This is the day that the sun is up before 5 for us, and it's going down a little before 9. So we have a lot of daylight in the northern hemisphere on June 21st. The higher your latitude in the northern hemisphere, the more daylight you get. If you're towards the equator all year, you have about 12 hours of daylight and darkness. If I'm going up to the Arctic Circle towards the North Pole on June 21st, they have 24 hours of daylight. The sun never sets for them. On the reverse is happening at the South Pole. The southern hemisphere has no daylight. All right, so while we're having summer, they're having winter. Next season, winter, also known as the winter solstice. Date, December 21st. Sun is the zenith of the Tropic of Capricorn, 23.5 or 23.5 degrees south latitude. This is the day that the northern hemisphere has the least amount of daylight. So if I'm at the Arctic Circle going to the North Pole, it has 0 amount of daylight on December 21st. The reverse is true for the southern hemisphere. The South Pole has got 24 hours of daylight. So for them, while we have winter, they have summer. All right, our last season we're going to talk about is autumn or fall. This is the autumnal equinox. It's an equinox, as I said before. If you see equinox, we're thinking the sun is the zenith at the equator. Equal day to darkness, so about 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness for everyone on the earth. So let's look at the diagram. Here's the sun. Notice the earth is always tilted. Here's the North Pole, North Pole, North Pole, North Pole. The North Pole is always pointing the same direction. If I'm looking at this one, notice the North Pole, no daylight. If I look at this one, notice the North Pole, totally illuminated, all daylight. So no daylight in the North Pole, I know it's winter. I look at the South Pole, it's totally illuminated, even if it rotates. North Pole on this one, 24 hours of daylight. South Pole, no daylight. So this one I know it's got to be winter, this has got to be summer, and we already say that they revolve counterclockwise. So if this is winter, the season in between, it's got to be spring. If this is winter, spring, summer, the next one's got to be fall. All right, how else do we know that the earth is revolving around the sun besides the seasons? And that would be your seasonal constellations. These, as I was saying, when we did your vocab, we look at circumpolar. Circumpolar you see all year. Seasonal, you only see part of the year. Like Orion, the hunter, it's a winter constellation. You see him in the winter sky. You do not see him in the summer sky. All right, in the notes I put other constellations for you to look at that are going to be seasonal constellations. Remember, your constellations are groups of stars that take on an image. Draco on the bottom is supposedly a dragon. Constellations are based on Greek mythology.